These are the people who said, we will take the threshold of income tax to 200,000 rupees. These are the people who said we will give medical scans to every person over the age of 40 years. And suddenly, the day after, all of that is no longer valid. Come on, man. Don't do politics this way. Be truthful. I'm the only SJB MP, one and only SJB MP who went to RW, looked him in his eye and gave him a letter of resignation. I said, sir, thank you for all the opportunities you gave me, but I'm resigning from the UNP and I'm going to join the SJB. No one did it. I did it. So I didn't backstab. I told RW. RW told me, Harsha, why don't you rethink? I said, no, sir, this is not going anywhere. It is about internal democracy of the party and all of that.
Welcome to another edition of Insight. I'm Shiharanis. When it comes to Sri Lanka's economy, there is a character nobody can forget. He speaks about economic policies, theories, implementation, everything. And he has been a really strong voice about the economy. We have here today at the studio Dr. Harsha de Silva, an opposition MP, and he was the former Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Economic Policies. Welcome to the show, Dr. Harsha de Silva.
Thank you, Shia.
Doctor, you were handpicked from your economic, from your background as an expert in the economy by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. How do you see the politics from 2010? You were first came to the parliament in 2010. How do you see the politics now?
Oh, I don't see much of a difference. Things are pretty much unsatisfactory. Because like you said, I came from the outside. I never was a Palat Sarbat person or a Pradeshi Sab. I came directly on the national list, me and Iran. And we tried to bring in knowledge and experience into policy making and governance. When I came into parliament, I had already sort of finished my PhD in development economics. I, did MBA work in finance. Then I taught university both in the US while I was a PhD student and also here at PIM and all. I think, were you also there at one point?
No.
Right. and then, I joined a bank. So I saw how the bank works inside. I was a DSCC chief economist and its first treasurer. Saw how development financing was actually done, which I was not happy about. And then sort of said no to that field because I wanted to do something more exciting. Founded a company with someone else, from zero, one employee, and, successfully built that. Sold it to the world's largest information company, Nielsen, with 100-odd people, dozens of graduates, and then I saw how you deal with the bank as a customer, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, how government policy impacts people who are starting out, and also labor, labor issues get hauled up to the labor. secretariat in Narayanpeta. And I realized what it is to build a company, and to be a successful entrepreneur, what it really means, And then I worked for about 10 years with the World Bank and ADB, UNDP, because I had time for myself, started playing golf and things like that. There, I saw how different governments approach pretty much the same problem. I was really interested in infrastructure and technology. I think you remember Rohan, Samarjeeva, and at Learn, we worked in telco reforms in this part of the world. Amazing how, I can remember I wrote a paper on tech policy, essentially how the TRIA, Telecom Regulatory Agency of India, how they went from sort of landline BSNL model to what it has become. And that was policy, you see. And then whether it was in, telcos in this part of the world. And then I had this amazing opportunity to work in Nepal and Bhutan, on energy policy. Looked at how hydro, even at that time, even now, amazing opportunity for both countries. But how the politics of the two countries was so different that one succeeded, Bhutan in that case, and Nepal failed. You see, there we looked at bringing private enterprise, private investment into these countries because, look, the potential was there. Why was it that Nepal couldn't get the kind of investments? And then what we learned was, these are early days, how the PPAs between Bhutan and India and Nepal and India were kind of lopsided at the beginning, and how subsequently with people, coming back from the Delft, etc., I think Rohan played a big role there as well in developing the capacity of the regulators to, do proper purposes agreements and stuff like that. And also, that was a time when, information technology, IT was sort of beginning, and not beginning, but becoming, IoT. I was a part of a team that Ashok Junjunwala, if you remember, Professor Ashok Junjunwala, who is a professor at IIT Madras, made me a group, one of his guys who kind of went and advised the startups at IIT Madras, and amazing how these startups were, this big warehouse, and one table was one startup type of business, and Ashok used to, sort of, I was telling him, cash register was running because he had a patent on those days, if you remember, cordless phones. But he lived in a small flat with no furniture.
Wow.
All the money went to, CSR almost, right? And he was creating millionaires by the year at that time, probably now by the month, right? And then we took that into how we could use that in Africa. I worked in a Pan-African University program, a whole bunch of African countries, and looked at how IT was being used in agriculture. And then I created something called Govinyana Seva, if you recall, in Dambulla, the first IT-enabled price capture and dissemination mechanism. And so those things, together gave me a sort of a rounded, and if I may call it, a more holistic approach. Because I saw it as, like you said, theory, then I saw it as a practitioner, both from inside a bank and as a customer, as an entrepreneur. Then, and I don't want to say globally because I was only working regionally in Asia and Africa. So how that works. And I thought when I came to Parliament, I can actually implement these things. I came with a lot of hope, right? And I must appreciate RW was willing to listen to Iran and I at the time. I recall an editorial by the editor, Prabhat, I think was at that time, Island, said, so strange, good thing that RW has done in a long time is to bring these two fellows in, because even if we had lost the election, there was a massive demand for these two seats, and we were unknowns, But he said, no, we are going to bring these two guys in. And then, in the opposition, if you recall, after the war, that's why we all, wanted to come in, because, still young enough to, make more money for myself. But I thought, look, I've sufficient, and I must do this. So I don't want to use the word sacrifice, but, took that decision when a lot of people, armchair critics, blaming everyone, but doing really nothing other than, what do you call these warriors on the telephone?
Yeah.
Keypad warriors.
Keypad warriors.
And then we tried to make something, because we had a great opportunity after the war. And then if you recall, you were working for the news agency at the time. And, we were very, very critical about how the central bank was using the EPF, for instance, how it was so wrong, what these guys were doing. And if you remember the pump and dump, stock by stock, but a lot of people didn't understand this. But, and people abuse the system like anything, Remember even the SEC chairpersons were let go, not 1, 2, 3 people, and how criticism was looked at as being unpatriotic. I remember talking about in Parliament, somebody said, Harsha de Silva needs to be eliminated, right? Why? Because we were showing theoretically what these people are doing is completely wrong. I was going to have a terrible impact. Then 2011, when Basil brought the, expropriation law, I remember going out to the lobby and telling Basil, Mr. Minister, you're doing a wrong thing. Because there was such commotion and Parliament was adjourned for 10, 15 minutes. I said, don't do it. What will happen is you'll lose investor confidence. Then he said, just go home, and, a particular person was, really trying to play politics with us, and, they're trying to get my brother to do this and that. We won't let it happen. They did it. We want to finish him off, kind of the personal prejudices. And I'm telling you, that is what happened in that lobby. And then, how the whole thing, sort of fell flat. And I think even till today, one of the main reasons why I'm not getting investments is that confidence about how some crazy politician can come and just nationalize various things, you see. 2015, ran for the first time in Colombo. Won big. Surprised myself. And then of course we were in government, foreign affairs, which was an amazing opportunity to work under Mangala, the best boss I've ever had. Amazing guy, I never wanted to take credit for things that other people did, but most politicians do. Right? And my biggest first thing was, he told me, Harsh, I'll look after the politics, we'll look after the economics. Eh? And then GSP Plus was our first big challenge. And then, went to Brussels, went to all these places, formed the foreign affairs team, the diplomats who were excellent. And then another challenge was MCC, the Millennium Challenge Corporation. I recall the first visit to the MCC office in DC, restarting the program. And we were so happy that we ended up getting it. And then what unfortunate idiocy, that was to, kick it. And then it was during that time that I really was able to focus, because Soros had come and he funded the growth diagnosis program. And then came that whole Harvard team, if you remember, from Kennedy School, led by Ricardo Hausman, And that growth diagnostic study was really, really good. Found out why Sri Lanka wasn't growing. And one of the big issues they found was land. It was so difficult to get land. Land cases drag on for 30, 40 years. Most issues in the police stations, even family disputes about land. And so that was why the Challenge Fund, put in, I think, about $160 million, just credit. I mean, just a grant, to create these cadastral registers and things like that. Now they are trying to do it because they want to put the property tax for next year.
That's right.
But if this was done earlier, there would have been so much more or so much easier for investors to come and, pick a plot and, get the factory or warehouse. So that was one of the things. And then I had the opportunity to also go to the Kennedy School, sit with other policymakers from other countries and sort of, think about how theory and practice intersected, and how politics really, whether, how you sort of were either successful or not in making it work, what were the constraints and stuff like that. So super this thing, but when you come back and sit at your desk and trying to do these things, it became almost impossible.
That's why I want to ask Doctor now, how satisfied are you using your knowledge and experience into policy making? This is I'm asking because there are criticism that you are only a theoretician, you are not a practical guy. And also, when you were given the power in 2016 to 2019, so 15 to 19, you could do nothing, right? There is a criticism like that.
I recall Sirisena president calling me and saying, I told Ranil, you must give Harsha a cabinet portfolio. And he mentioned what it was. And he said, Ranil is not willing to give this to you. And he called me again. This went on for months. So unfortunately, neither Iran or I got that opportunity to actually, sign on documents to get things done. All what we have achieved, both Iran and I, have been as deputy ministers, state ministers. Finally, you see, Shihad, they gave me a title called non-cabinet minister for public distribution and reform. So it is in that 8 months as public distribution, I had some authority. I built Sri Lanka's first climate control warehouse for agricultural produce in Dambulla, which they are still, I don't know what
the storage you are talking about.
Yeah, right. There have been agriculture ministers since independence, including our current president AKD. But no one thought that you needed to build these warehouses for climate control for agriculture. You know how Digampatana sees all the produce from the Dambulla market being thrown, and there was a photograph recently. An elephant was stuck in the
garbage.
Yeah, it's actually not garbage. It's just, produce being thrown, and it has become garbage. So that is point number one. We worked within what we could. I mean, I gave leadership to creating Suwa Seriya. If people say I haven't done anything, I would like them to go back and ask themselves, what is the most meaningful project that a government had done in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Tell me what it is. And if you say Suwa Seriya is not, I think you are being biased, right? And, that happened because of a personal experience of a friend of ours almost dying after a, road accident. Spoke to Modi, and it's amazing how it happened in Parliament with the then Indian High Commissioner Yash, me and Prime Minister Modi. And then once it was done, RW as Prime Minister, I drafted the letter and he was very happy, signed it and sent to Modi. And how from there we got $23 million as a grant, which created this. So if people say I'm just a theory guy, I challenge those people to say, who did it? With all the opposition, we didn't back down. You remember all these guys now in office, previous guys, they personally attacked me, how they didn't let us park ambulances in the hospitals. They said, don't get into these ambulances, you will die. මේ ගහෙන් වැටිලා මැරෙනවද මේකේ කරන්ට් ඇදිලා මැරෙනවද කියලා.
So there was a speculation that the RAW was operating, right? Indian intelligence agency.
Yeah, so I mean, people, it is cheap to criticize, but to do something, right? And take Shakti, for instance, the rice project that we started. We fought Dudley, right? I mean, the day before the 2019 election, we were selling Shakti rice at Keels, at Cargills, at Satosa for Samba for 90 rupees a kilo.
What happened to that?
Why, the moment Gotabaya came, they shut it down. With Harsha's project, they shut it down. This is what terrible things about politics. Didn't complete the Dambul warehouse of 5 years. Even these guys tried to change the color of ambulance, 1990 Suwa Seriya. They want to drop the name Suwa Seriya, right? And it is like my third child. I'll never let it, fall. So we fought for it, and the whole country stood with me. And finally, they reversed their decision to change the name and change the color recently.
But they are revamping. I think by end of March, they are revamping. Doing something, some changes.
No, they are going to a new place. All good.
Okay.
As long as they work to improve it, we are fully behind it. If they are trying to destroy it, we will, we will fight. And there's no need to change the color. What's wrong with that color? It's fine. And it is.
Is it the UMP color that they want to change?
I mean, it has a bit of green. And, if you look at ambulances, even in the UK, ambulances are yellow and green, right? They wanted to put that maroon color, no? That's what happened. But anyway, they won't do it, right? Not because of me. They won't do it because of the public. The backlash they got, they realized, look, better not mess with this, because this is the most loved service in this country. Most loved, right? The most efficient. And so some point is, so when they try to reverse, but so if I won't accept that criticism that we didn't do, right? Then tell me what these people have done. What has this government done for 1.5 years? Tell me, right? What did Gotabaya do for however many years? Tell me what, right? I have things to show. Nobody can take away these things that we have done or I have given leadership to do, right? We haven't talked about the GSP plus fight. We haven't talked about all the other things that we fought for in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. we started the first ever program for senior diplomats called economic diplomacy, right? With the back end, with the BOI and the finance ministry, front end, and the EDB, and the front end, the diplomats. We had like close to 40 ambassadors and deputy ambassadors and head of the commerce division in these, what do you call, missions, follow the first ever program that Kennedy School created for economic diplomacy. We were really making some good progress. Got to create capacity for people to work. They must understand why they are doing it. And they must be able to knock on doors and sell Sri Lanka or bring investment to Sri Lanka. What happened? Governments changed, the aid stopped, and now other countries are benefiting from it. So therefore, that's on that criticism. But I want to say one thing. Tisuri Vanyarachi, who was my senior analyst, had just written a book, and she talks about how we try to do things differently. We created the first analytics unit for the government. We had all young people. Our office was like this. It didn't look like a government office. People, pizza, right? But it was about smart people sitting at computers, looking at the data. Even though I was not in the cabinet, I was a convener of the cabinet committee on food security. How we were able to maintain prices of essentials. How duty structures should have been moved up and down. We looked at what, harvest periods were. So if you really go back and look at, the stability in prices, right? All those things just didn't happen. Criticism is easy.
Doctor, now you were in the opposition from 2010 to 2015 and then in the government. And in 2022, we had this economic crisis. Did you foresee this economic crisis during that 12 years?
Yes, we did. My father is 93 years old. And recently I was telling him, Tati, do you recall how many times I told you, right? We were running into a crisis. And he's a historian.
Okay.
Right? And, but with him in university, people like AS and Uswati and all, they were economists, But, they knew about, my father knew that there were some issues because his friends probably used to tell him then. But I saw it from the inside, and we needed to do something about it. And that is why Mangala brought in the new IRD Act in 2017 and did the medium-term debt management strategy. That is why we brought the liability management law the same day that the October coup happened in 2018. That same day. Right?
26th. October 26th.
Yeah. And why did we do that? We did that because we needed to avoid what was coming. Right? And then what happened? They just threw away everything. And by throwing away the fiscal discipline that we were trying to bring in, right? This structural problem has happened for a long period of time because reforms were not allowed by the vociferous and sometimes violent, small trade unions and others funded by, let us be honest, the JVP. Whether it was education reform, economic reform, SOE reform, electricity reform, nothing was allowed. And without it, and the governments didn't have, strong backbones to push the reform. And I'll tell you why that is because that the people at the top perhaps didn't really appreciate the need for reform. Let me put it that way. Sometimes populism, sort of overtook the theoretical need for reform. So that is why theory matters. RW is not an economist, but he is kind of well read in the subject, and would argue with me when I was working with him as his deputy minister on many a theoretical point in your advanced economics textbook, right? So therefore, it was coming, and it had to be avoided. And the only way it was to be avoided in a sustainable manner is if we did the reforms. So in 22, you remember, I was the first person in parliament in 2020 to say go to the IMF, and Niwad and others laughed and said I know nothing. And so this is the way in which they handle the issue, right? So then when in 2022 or between 20 and 22, the government misdiagnosed the problem as a liquidity issue. Yes, there was a liquidity issue, but it was much bigger than that, right? Say it was whether we were going to be able to continue to operate as a organization, nation, economy without being bankrupt. So that was a long answer to the question, but we saw it earlier.
Moon Lanka since 1995.
Doctor, during that specific time before we announced bankruptcy and the debt default, were you also consulted by the government, or were your points also taken into the equation when they decided to go for a debt default?
I mean, this has been spoken about. I think Sabri also spoke about it with you, and it has been spoken in parliament and outside. I mean, that was at the very, very end, the day before. I mean, what happened was no one really knew what the real situation was because we were lied to. And we had no access to the real data. The chairman of the Committee on Public Finance is supposed to be a member of the opposition. Why? Because for oversight and for ensuring that certain people were not, taking the rest of the country for a ride. And that person who's chairing that committee should have some understanding of the subject. But what did they do? They ignored it. They suspended standing orders and appointed one of their own people. And nothing came out. Now you see in the Committee on Public Finance, there's a debate, a discussion. The people know, journalists like yourselves come to know, researchers get to know. And then that is a healthy debate, right? But none of that happened. Do you recall a public finance committee meeting before the crisis? Did you recall any information that was being questioned by opposition, let alone opposition, even, anyone? No. Because they came to parliament, they said we have, $2.6 billion, so we are getting $1 billion from here, another $2 billion from there. And newspapers would flash it, television would say it, journalists would not question. Voila, suddenly we have been, shown something that never existed. Okay. And then I remember that day very, very well, because both of us were having dinner early to go to one of these talk shows in the night. But a couple hours before that, Sabri called me and said, Harsha, we have a problem. I said, what? He said, look, we don't have money. I said, what do you mean you don't have money? We have to make a payment this week. It was like $80 million or $60 million, something like that. I said, surely, Sabri, you had that kind of money. You have billions in the bank. He said, no, man, we don't. I said, look, then I recall telling him, well, let us see what we can do, even talk to some people, right? We know people around the world. We may be able to do something. Little while later, Indrajit called me from London. He said, Harsha, did Sabri call you? Do you know what's happening? I said, Indrajit, yeah, I'm shocked, And then I said, let's see what we can do. And then that's when the other call came and he said, no, it's not 60 odd million, but it is like 180 odd million we have to pay. There's absolutely no way we can do it. And then I think what may have happened is after that late night television, live television show, he may have spoken to, I don't know what happened. I'm sure he did speak to the president and other governor and all these people.
So this you are talking on the April 11th.
Yeah. Was
April 11th? April 11th, 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. April 12th, they declared...
That's right. I'm talking about the night before. And so after that, I didn't talk to Sabri. And then we heard in the news in the morning that they had done it. Because we were lied to. I don't know. He was in government also. So at least to some extent, even the cabinet should have been made aware. They should have been, told, look, this is the real situation.
But was there any other alternative at that point? Was there any other alternative other than going for default?
See, we kept telling them, I kept telling them for months prior to that, do a reprofile. No need to go in for a large haircut or ask for one, and you could have reprofiled it then, because you needed consent, right? You had to have consent from your creditors, and that conversation should have started long back. Even when COVID happened, we went for an RFI, rapid financing facility to the IMF, and they told that they can't give it. No, that is because our debt was not sustainable. So PB and Nevada and Article and all of these people knew how complicated and bad the problem was. They knew it. And should have taken steps, you see, to avoid this. Default is terrible. Who wants to default? That Christmas prior to that, Shanta was in town. Comes his mother, I think, at the time, and he went to see.
The Shanta means the European.
No, Shanta Devaraja.
European EU parliamentarian.
No. Chief economist of the World Bank, Shanta Devaraja.
Shanta Devaraja.
Yeah. And went to see GR with like a presentation of like 5 pages in big bold letters explaining why he should go to the IMF at the time.
Okay.
Right? So there were multiple opportunities before the default that they could have. There were alternatives, so many, but not the day before. Not the day before. We were already, just falling off the cliff.
One of the key issues Gotabaya government faced was this fertilizer issue. They suddenly went to organic fertilizer. Do you think it was also part of, the strategy to curb, to preserve the foreign exchange?
I think so. It's crazy, but I think so. I think so. I mean, like I said, it's crazy to think that,
Hmm.
but I have no option but to think.
In SJB, Samagi Jana Balavegaya, how do you see your future?
Let's see. I mean, politics, nothing is certain. Things change so rapidly.
And also nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible. I remember the first survey we did at Madam Chandrika's house for President Sirisena. He had come out. We probably had, 2 months before the election? Around 2 months for the election.
Less than that.
Less than that. And we looked at the data, and President Sirisena put his arm around me and he said, Harsha, මේක දිනන්න බෑ. බලන්නු අපි 20යි අරය 40 ගාන. මං ගුවා සර් අපි මේක මෙහෙම යන්. රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයා 50ට අඩුවෙන් තියාගන්න පුළුවන් නම් අපිට දිනන්න පුළුවන්. And what an amazing job Mangal and the others did, ran that campaign. And, everybody got around, we had a large coalition. I remember going to Sobhita Hamdro's temple. And, everybody started coming in. I mean, AKD, AKD was very much in the...
that campaign, yeah.
In that group, right? And then... and we did it in 2 months. But if you look at what AK did, I guess President AKD, I guess I should call him, is over a period of time, number of years he built it, and he won. But Sirisena did it in 2 months. So these are different ways of getting the same thing done. So SJB has to make sure that we are able to unite with the UNP. That's a given. I have been saying this for a long time, and I've been attacked internally and externally for having this view. I mean, I'll tell you, Sajid is a decent guy, right? He has a very good heart, and he really wants to do something that benefits the people, the masses. And that's always been him, right? And we have a great team. We have guys like Iran, ran a big bank, created NDB bank, worked at Citibank, and we have guys like Kabir, who really understand economics and, and is able to sit and strategize, right? I mean, that's really our team, the three of us and the leadership. And of course, there are a lot of other young people around us, with us, who believe in reform, who believe in what we call a social market economy, right? Because our thing is different from RW's ideology at that time, and we framed it that way in the election, at the election also.
The social market economy.
Yes. I mean, we wrote it. I took leadership in writing it in 2015 between January and July, and that's what we proposed. But it was never implemented. So here what we are saying is, yes, markets must work, but the governments must intervene to stop the failures of the market, right? So this is not socialism. This is, like Sajid says, capitalism with a human face. Right? Manushiya Dhanavadya. I mean, unless you are able to create wealth, there is nothing to distribute. So that is our game plan. That is where we are going. And we believe in, the welfare state. When some people say welfare state, they misunderstand. What we mean here is, education, health, that has to be affordable and accessible to all people. Now, if you look at 1990 Suwa Seriya, that is what we believe in, because you pay taxes, and with that taxes, you are, the basic need, to be able to live. If you're having a heart attack, it is the government's responsibility to provide you that basic, logistic support from there to the hospital. And, and in education, we've been, speaking a lot about the need to reform education and to have it accessible to as many people. We are for a non-state, not-for-profit universities. I led the team for around 6 months on the CITA matter. I was the chair of that committee. I had all the deans of all the universities, medical faculties. And we came up with this model where CITA would sundown and it will sunrise again with SLIIT. So CITAM's medical school was going to be SLIIT's medical school. That was SLIIT was, and so we would have preserved, non-state medical studies. So these types of reforms we believe in. We believe in the need for kids to be educated in English. Right? I think between 1 and 5 they can have their mother tongue, but from 6, certainly English should be the medium of instruction. So how do you get there? So and something that I have been saying over and over is we need to break the walls around this country and build bridges to the world. And I believe it because I've seen it, I've done it. Right? So we have a good team, only that we need to be more coherent and work as that team.
Doctor, let's come to the economy now, right? Now we are in a critical role where recovery has been, we have the economy has stabilized, but now the next phase is the growth phase, which is not happening. We haven't seen any concrete or strong policies for that. How do you see this?
You're right. It won't. When the president read out the budget, not this year, last time, I opened the debate for the opposition and I said, to me, this is a parish priest delivering a Bana sermon at a Buddhist temple. Because I don't know what you're reading off of. Is it the Bible or the Tripitaka or the Dhamma? What is it? Right? Because my thing is very simple, and I've been saying this and I continue to say there is an ideological conflict inside that mechanism. And that is why you are not doing the reforms. That is the theory you need to understand. That is why it is important to understand the basics and the theoretical background, the foundations on what an economy is built upon. So if you believe in socialism for 50 years, Shihar, and suddenly you say, no, that is all wrong, I am a total neoliberal guy, how can that be? How can that be? People who are saying there's no country that has, gotten out of trouble with the IMF. People who argued till the day before the election that, the debt sustainability agreement has to be revised and will be revised. People who till the day before the election said a lot of this debt is odious. Audit karala. After the audit, only the ones that need to be paid will be paid. These are the people who said it. These are the people who said, we will take the threshold of income tax to 200,000 rupees. These are the people who said we will give medical scans to every person over the age of 40 years. Right? I'm talking about public finance related matters, right? And suddenly, the day after, all of that is no longer valid.
But isn't it good for the country?
Come on, see, that is what people say. Come on. We are.
No, I mean, isn't it good for the stability of the country?
It is.
Yeah.
But so my point is that, come on, man, don't do politics this way. Be truthful. Right? You cannot fool all the people all the time. Right? But so why did we lose? By telling the truth? But Harsha de Silva said in the blueprint, we can't change the DSA, that we have to go ahead with the restructure, that these reforms are needed. What did they say? No, nothing is necessary. And what are they doing? Are you true to yourself? You want to do politics for what? I can go to sleep at night without any problem. I say what I believe is right. So the point is, it's like this. Give me a phone, right? This phone for a second. These are dominoes, right? Right. So these are a bunch of dominoes. So if this domino falls on this one, it will fall on the other, and all the dominoes will fall. But if you take this domino out, this will fall flat.
Others
will remain. So when President AKD and his advisors, remove dominoes from the line, it won't continue. So that is what is happening, whether it is in electricity sector reform or whether it is in port sector reform or whatever it is, right? So unless you understand theoretically why these dominoes have been placed like this, you will not know the consequences of removing those dominoes. That is why it is important to have a fundamental understanding of some sort of economic ideology. I don't blame other people for having socialist ideology. That's fine. But I am not there. But the thing is, they have changed on the surface. But have they changed underneath? Or has some changed? Has President AKD changed? And has Tilwin and the others who are the sort of the real powers behind the JVP, have they changed? Right? If they have, why on earth are they undermining the reforms? You see, so therefore, I sometimes find it quite hilarious. They talk about, we have brought in stability. Yes, you didn't. The previous guys did. They brought in the stability. But stability is not the end goal. Hello? Stability is only a prerequisite for growth. But where is the growth? Where is the growth? And where will it come from? What is this nonsense? 3% growth or 4% growth or 5% growth? We got to be growing at 11%, 12% like in Tamil Nadu or Telangana or Andhra or Karnataka or Kerala or these places. So, unfortunately, we will muddle through. There won't be any big crisis and we won't fall again. That won't happen. We will pay our debt. All that will happen.
But there's a speculation that we might go for another debt restructuring cycle or another sovereign default by 2028.
No, I don't think there will be another sovereign crisis before 28. I think we will just muddle through. But muddling through, you don't need a government. This country, this nation will muddle through. The people work hard. They create.
But I remember, during the wartime even, we had a 6% natural growth.
And there is a natural growth. We need a government to bring in policies to, open up the space for our people to create wealth. We got a government to unshackle the shackles that various governments, including this one, have put on people's ability to create wealth. Right? Creating wealth is not a bad thing. Creating wealth is what we need to do as a nation. So, I mean, let's take an example. Airports. Now we are trying to build so airports and so much money, controversy here, can't give the contract there. It's never getting done. How many years? For the last 1.5 years with these guys, past so many years with those guys. Look at India. How many airports are they building? In the dozen. Probably over 100 airports they're planning around small airports, domestic airports. Who's building many of them? Public-private partnerships. Government land, private investment, airport is done. Like that. And you look at some of these airports in India, they are better than European airports, better than some of the Chinese airports, better than Southeast Asian airports. Getting done. Look at the airline. $1 billion in debt. Can't find a CEO. Right? For 1.5 years, trying to find a CEO. Nobody wants to come. I have a lot of criticisms against how they have appointed the board, the chairperson. Right? Conflicts of interest all over the place. And every day losing money. And that money, $1 billion, should be used in education to train teachers to teach kids in English. Bring technology to schools so kids can learn AI and other things. But no. Private sector can do, but we will do it. No need of them. Nonsensical. What is the priority? So therefore, the problem is that ideological conflict, and they're confused and sort of they're stuck in their own ideological mess that they created for themselves.
Going forward, how do you see the government, government's economic policy? Because one thing you said was like there is no plan for growth, right? This has been told by many people. Though the stability has come from the previous government and the IMF is there, the growth policies are not there. I mean, what should be the government's policy in the going forward?
No, it's like this. I think, fundamentally, they need to understand the objective is to create wealth. But if creating wealth is not their thing, right? Then how would you let others the opportunity to create wealth if you don't know how to create wealth? If you don't believe in the ways of creating wealth, the right ways of creating wealth, I mean.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think that's a problem. If people think, look, I can live off what other people give me or what my party gives me, it has to come from within. This is how you create wealth. This is what you need to do to make this nation rich, right? And this is, for instance, like this donor conference the government is talking about. I personally don't agree.
Why?
Because that era is gone. We raised some billions of dollars after the ceasefire agreement.
$4.5 billion.
Yeah. How much did we raise this time? $30 million, except for the Indian grant that is separate. People gave us $1 million, $500,000, $2 million. What is that? Nothing. Right? But we should have an investor conference. We should show these are the areas where you can come invest. Because the whole world has changed post Trump, right? The rules are gone. It is how you survive, right? And philanthropy, global philanthropy in that sense, no longer exists. Yes, India supports us because we have friends and we should have friends. We can even have best friends, but India is our neighbor. Right? No one else really has that connection with us. Right? The economic relationships. But here it is more than that. But other than that, but even in India, Harini went, AKD went, but none of them even use the 4 letters ECTA. Trade agreement is stuck. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the need to sort of integrate with the Indian economic engine, which is the fastest and the strongest in the whole wide world right now. You see? So, so these are the things that need to be understood as the path to growth.
Doctor, in terms of geopolitics, Sri Lanka has suffered because successive government chose their own partner, their own ally. Some people were pro-India and some people were pro-China. Some people were pro-US. You were a deputy foreign minister as well. What was the thinking of foreign policy during that time and what should be in the future?
I mean, it is what Ms. Lakshman Khadragam said, right? Friendship with all, enmity with none. So this whole thing about non-aligned movement and all are in the past. You need to align yourselves with as many so that your economic and strategic interests are met, right? And one needs to understand, like I said earlier, you must have friends, you must have best friends also. But there's only for us one neighbor. Others have many neighbors, but for us we have only one, right? So how do you manage that relationship, vis-a-vis the other relationships? And Trump's new world, I think, has changed a lot of things, right? Now, if the world believes that Trump can do whatever he wants in his sort of power of influence in the area that he has influence, somebody else also could think they can do things the way they want in their sort of region of influence. Get my point, right? So that is important to understand, and we are not part of any grouping. You see, the president at the Independence Day address to the nation said, "තනියෙන් ගියොත් වේගෙන් යන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි දුර යන්න නම් කණ්ඩායමක් යන්න ඕනේ." I mean, it matters not only for this country, for the political party, or in this case, for foreign policy. And everything is based on economic well-being of, our own individual sovereign nations. But as groups, you can benefit a lot more. 1 + 1 is far greater than 2. Say, countries like, Vietnam, for instance, how many regional groupings they are in, how many free trade agreements have they signed? Whether it is ASEAN or whether it is the RCEP, or they have some with the US or the UK, Europe. Now look at what India has just done. They say mother of all trade deals, India, EU trade agreement. And America has dropped its tariffs to 18%, which is even below ours, right? They have access to the UK, they have access to the European Union. Now they have a relatively better access to the United States, right? And then if you look at ASEAN, something like, top of my mind, something like $25 trillion of trade.
Mm.
right? And we are not part of that for various reasons. We're not part of the RCEP. We are part of the SARC, but nothing happens there, right? So we need, and we don't have agreement with the free trade agreement with the European Union, no limited trade agreements with others. The Indian one is not being utilized properly. It's been bashed up by the politicians saying it is bad for us, right? I think we signed one with Thailand, nothing has happened. So you have to put economic interest, strategic interest front and center of our foreign policy, in my view, right? And to me, it's like this. Remember those days we used to ride bicycles and there was little hill, it's tough to, pedal it up. And then suddenly a lorry rolls around, is overtaking. You hold on to the lorry, right? It'll take you over the hill without any real, effort on our part. That is India. The big lorry is India. It's just coming along us now. We are parallel to it, right? Are we going to hold on to that lorry? Or are you going to let the lorry go? That's what we need to think about in terms of foreign policy also. Economic, foreign policy. So this is where it's important that you have people who understand global issues, regional issues, who's got experience in working in other countries, have good networks, to be able to profit from this. Now, we haven't been able to grab any business that came out of Bangladesh, right? We haven't been able to grab any business that the, China plus one, redundancy strategies of American and European companies. The port city matter, I've been bringing it up at the Committee on Public Finance. I'm deeply disappointed because, as a matter of fact, I used to head the strategic committee to establish the laws and policies for it when I was given that, important role towards the very end of the last government, right? And what we wanted to create was a lab there, right? It was a policy lab. If it worked there, we could use it in the rest of the country, So I'm not going to get into that. So growth and foreign policy, economic policy are aligned. We are a maritime nation, right? From the Godawaya ship that was, or that the American ambassador Julie Chang was instrumental in helping preserve, dates back to 2nd century before Christ. That is when the Godawaya port obviously operated, Mantai port and the Trincomalee port, all ports. We are a maritime nation. What are we doing? Where is our sort of leadership as a center of the Indian Ocean where all commerce will happen? We must punch above our weight class here. We have soft power. We have convening power. We can help write policies for this ocean, right? We must be seen as a guardian, as a convener for all the littoral nations around the Indian Ocean. We must take leadership. It doesn't cost money. It only takes intellectual capacity to do it. And we are friends with most countries vis-a-vis, our neighbors. They are fighting with somebody or the other, right? So, foreign policy is critical. That is what I learned in my 2 years as Deputy Minister. In forming strong useful economic partnerships with the rest of the world. Right? Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. I mean, you see, Mangala told me, Harsha, 30% of the foreign of our job gets done in the office. 70% gets done outside of office. Mangala had this lovely residence down Stanmore Crescent. It was not Mangala's residence, it was the foreign minister's official residence. And how many people here we've had come there, sometimes 1 o'clock into the night, talking nonsense over a scotch and cigars. Sometimes Mangala loved it, the cigars. And how much things got done from cabinet level members of the US government to European Union leaders to sheikhs from the Middle East to foreign ministers from India to those from China at the house, over some dinner and chat and a nice malt and Mangala cigars. But what happened with this government? There's no need of a residence for the foreign minister. Now it's gone to the dogs, literally. These are soft things. You need to have that experience to do it. Or you need to be advised. You want to get rid of the social services minister's house? Get rid of it. I don't care. I told the government people, don't get rid of the foreign minister's residence. It is an important place for people to meet and discuss outside of the restrictions of office. Foreign policy gets done that way. I went to the Singapore Foreign Ministry one time, and in a glass box is the 1-page Singapore-US Free Trade Agreement written down in pens, right? Between the Singapore Prime Minister and the United States President over a round of what? Golf. It's there. And then it is on that, based on that, they create the US-Singapore FTA. But it's done on the golf course. Trump goes to Mar-a-Lago, Trump goes to all these places, official, right? He takes Air Force One, by the way. Right? He's president. And on the golf course. I mean, I'm not saying you need to play golf to do free trade agreements. But what I'm saying is these are the nuances that I learned as the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, that, these must come from inside. So I don't know what Vijita Herath and Arun Hemachandra are doing. I hope they're getting good advice. But I don't see anything coming out of the Foreign Office.
My last question, Doctor, I'm going to
I've got to go, man.
End the podcast with where I started. You were handpicked by Ranil Wickremesinghe because of your professionalism. Now you are seen as, by some people, as a successor to Sajid Premadasa in SJB. But there's a criticism for you that you backstepped Ranil and switched to Sajid. What do you have to say that?
No, I'm the only SJB MP, one and only SJB MP who went to RW, looked him in his eye and gave him a letter of resignation. I said, sir, thank you for all the opportunities you gave me, but I'm resigning from the UNP and I'm going to join the SJB. No one did it. I did it. So I didn't backstab. I told RW. RW told me, Harsha, why don't you rethink? I said, no, sir, this is not going anywhere. It is about internal democracy of the party and all of that. It was not on any personal matter. It's a completely policy issue. It's not just me, it was Malik, Mangala, Kabir, Talata. They were the seniors, no? And we were still junior in the establishment. So that is why RW says, no, at meetings, only Harsha is not a part of the UNP. The rest I am revoking their suspensions. So, but I've been very honest with him, right? And it is well known that he wanted me to join his cabinet, right? It's well known. And I refused.
During the 22 to 24.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Right? I refused. Because I said I don't want to sit with the Rajapaksa operators there. They ruined this country. I told them so many times, this is not the way to do it. But they did it anyway and they crashed this. But I chaired the Committee on Public Finance. And we supported the government. The opposition supported the government in the IMF program. This guy, Peter Brewer, told me that many countries take a much longer time to get out of the crisis. And Sri Lanka got out of the crisis very fast. And one reason he saw was that the opposition didn't put a spoke in the wheel. The opposition understood the critical importance of whichever government, had to sort of agree with the IMF on the getting the country back from the abyss it had fallen to. So I mean, in politics, you don't want to be an opposition MP. You want to rise. So it was an amazing opportunity for me. First time to be in a cabinet and to play a role in the restructure. I mean, obviously, it was very, very, very enticing to me. But I took that decision not to join the cabinet, but still to help this country. It will be written about at some point by someone, perhaps by myself, down the road, that I don't regret and I don't consider it a backstab. I was open, honest, and transparent, and I told him, sir, I am leaving. Right? And I'm not the backstabbing type. I'm a very open person, I don't want to. I don't want to say something to you and do something else. To be open about it, right? And it's easy that way. You don't have to think, what lie have I said? Now I have to, say another lie to cover that lie, and you forget all the lies you say, right? So let's hope that we can all work together again, the two parties, because I think that's where the capacity is, that's where the knowledge is, that's where the networks are, that's where the global connections are. That's where the real need to help the 26% of our people who are in poverty. How we are going to do it is there. Unfortunately, we were unable to do it last time, but next time.
Thank you very much for this lovely discussion and the insightful answers, Dr. Harsha de Silva.
Thank you, Shia. Thank you. You've been asking me to come for some time, but I really got to run now.
Thank you very much. And that's it from us, from Insight. Until we meet you next time, bye-bye.